tell you what happened to me on the weekend. Not much, it's a tiny little thing, but it's just something I've been waiting for. You hear all this commotion on movies about Americans loving Twinkies. And I thought, I've always wanted to try one, just because, you know.
Isn't it a chocolate covered sponge cake?
No, it's just a sponge with fake cream in the middle. Well, noticed they had them at Asda, a bit fucking pricey. But I thought, well, it's what I've wanted, you know.
Were they genuine USA Twinkies?
Yeah. So I thought I'd buy a pack. So we bought a pack, and they're okay, don't get me wrong. But they ain't worth the fucking money, and they ain't worth the fuss. They got a nice soft sponge. They got this fake, weird-ass cream inside. And they're like sticky sponges. Like it's got honey spread on it, but it's not honey. I'll tell you what, if Americans think they're great, we could make money selling fucking chocolate-covered Swiss rolls over there. You know, the ones with the cream rather than the jam. Because they're much nicer than a Twinkie. Much. I mean, they are leagues beyond any fucking Twinkie. So I don't know what the fuss is about Twinkies. They're okay. Don't get me wrong. What's the fuss with the name Twinkie? They cannot touch, like, Asda's own brand fucking chocolate covered individual creamy Swiss roll. Just not even close. So although not disappointed with Twinkies, I can say they weren't worth the money I paid, because you pay extra because they're fucking American imports. For a 10 pack of those little Swiss rolls, yeah? Asda's own, which I bet they got thicker chocolate than the fucking Cadbury's bollocks. 94p, yeah? Same amount of Twinkies, £5.
I used to talk about Twinkies because I like tuned out about
£5 for 10
ago.
Twinkies. That's like 50p each. 94p for the Swiss rolls, much better. So there you go. If anyone ever does hear this conversation, then and they want to try Twinkies, just buy the Swiss rolls. Don't bother with the Twinkies. The Swiss rolls are better. There you go.
I tend not to cake myself.
Yeah, well, you know, if you're a caker, then Twinkies ain't worth the money.
Source of the installation is interesting. We did an EICR here a few weeks ago. It wasn't too bad. There's a problem on the socket circuit. IR wasn't where we wanted it, and there was a R2 out of tolerance, something like that.
And the earth on the outside.
So yeah, as far as the sockets go, we'll put a bit of time into seeing if it's fixable. If not, we'll just pull in new while we've got the floors on. There was also, interestingly, we got as Nigel has just alluded to, a high earth reading. We got a ZE of about 9 ohms, didn't we? Over 9 ohms. And we did it on both testers, the Metrel and the TIS MFT Pro, just to make sure we weren't being stupid. Did it on the main earthing terminal and on the sheath of the cable, and got that same reading on both. So we were pretty happy that it was a problem with the supplier's earth, and we called Western Power in. And then Western Power, it's quite interesting. It isn't. I'm going to say it anyway. Western Power said, because we said like it's not an occupied property, but we still expected them to turn up fairly quickly, and it took them a while. I think it was like the next week they came out. And I appreciate that, you know, no one's living here, but tradespeople are using it. The homeowners, people who own the house, are in using it to strip the place out using power tools and wallpaper strippers and whatever. So there's stuff here that is in use that's supposed to be earthed, and I wasn't very happy that Western Power were just like, well, we'll stick that on the back burner. And then they sent someone out, and I got a call. I just got out in the beer garden, had a pint in my hand, call from this Western Power guy going, well, I'm here, mate, and it's reading perfectly fine for me. I'm getting 0. fuck all or whatever it was. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, mate. I mean, we've had 2 testers. We've done it on the sheath of the cable, on the main earthing terminal. We were getting 9 ohms on the day. Anyway, well, he said, well, I'm going to get sending another team to come and tidy it up because it's a bit old and crappy looking. And he was gone. And then this other team came in and they also got a high reading of about 10 ohms. So I don't know what's going on there. It's some kind of intermittent fault, perhaps. Something that's external to the building.
I reckon the first guy did what we did. When it's still connected to, if you don't disconnect it, you get a good reading.
Oh, you think he was getting from a parallel path?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we did it with the cable disconnected, of course.
Yeah. Well, you meant to.
Yeah. So maybe it was the error. Perhaps he was getting a good reading because it was coming from the gas pipe or something like that. Anyway, the other Western Power engineers have decided not to do anything with it other than they've tidied up the sheath of the cable and effectively PME'd it because they've tied this earth block to the neutral here. So that's their way of fixing the fault. They know that the earthing on the sheath of the incoming is bad from the street, so they've tied it to the neutral at the head here. So when we do our test later on, we ought to get the number down. They also pulled down the homeowner's pants for 218 quid to fit that bad boy. Not happy about that. We used to get Haste to do that at a reasonable price, and then Western Power came along saying, no, we'll have that monopoly, thanks very much, and we'll charge whatever the fuck we want for it.
Got mine free from a supplier when I had mine done.
Was that you, didn't you?
It was me, didn't you?
Yeah, she said that the Western Power guys said that you may be able to get your supplier to fit it for free. The trouble is, it's such a fucking lottery. And dealing with these call centres is a pain in the arse. Anyway, the plan today is to change this for something more exciting, which is in that box there. And while I'm doing that, Nigel's going to be pissing around on cables in the living room, trying to find that socket fault. Hello, who's this chap? We've also got a few other things to sort out. Some DIY tomfoolery here with some rather awful looking wall lights and hello! What is that doing down there? You can see that used to be a ceiling light there. You can see where it's been botched up. So I reckon in the attic we're going to find a khaki junction box and we can get rid of all that. Replace it with a light and move that switch drop to wherever it's supposed to be. That's just a horror show, isn't it? Various bits and bobs, but let's go and have a look at the star of the show because you want to see this exciting new board, do you not?
Oh yes.
You do as well, don't you, Nigel?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
SBS. Who? They've been around for a while actually. And you know what they make? Bespoke consumer units. Who knew that was a thing?
Sounds like some Russian agency. SBS. They'll come knocking at your door.
They, I believe they're under new ownership, and their website is currently in a holding pattern, so to speak. So there's not a lot of information about them at the moment. But I found on forums that they've been around for a while. And when I say they make bespoke consumer units, all very normal looking there, yes. You tell them how you want your consumer unit to be configured, and they configure it. This consumer unit has within it a rather exciting development in that it's a dual busbar arrangement, so you have your line and neutral busbars down the bottom there. So these are all 2-pole devices. That's it directly on the busbar, which as you can see from the lack of wiring here means you don't have neutral leads all flying off the RCBOs. They put it together for you in the configuration you ask for, and there's less assembly you have to do on site. You know that this is all torqued up. What do you think about that, Nigel? A dual busbar arrangement, hot or not?
Yeah, I think it removes some clutter from the board, and I think it's an idea. My only concern would be getting access to RCBOs. Are CEF going to carry them?
Exactly, no they're not. Because you order directly from SBS. And this is obviously perhaps the biggest weakness, possibly also a strength, Nigel.
Explain.
A weakness because, as Nigel says, there's only a single source for this stuff, so you're reliant on SBS providing you the parts, and you're not going to find them at the wholesaler. So, and also it's such a rare thing at present, I don't know if it can take off, but the next guy opening this up is going to go, what the hell?
Yeah, can't fit me Wylex in that.
And this is where perhaps you could look at it as a bit of a strength, because straight away your average homeowner, your DIYer, your gobshite mate down the pub who says electrics is piss, I'll do that for you. Well, these guys are trade only, so it's not like they can go down to Screwfix or Toolstation and pick up a replacement RCBO.
The owner's going to look at the label on the board and go, I'm going to have to call these guys.
Guy who installed it, yeah. From a business point of view, putting these in could be quite good, because it's not something that's immediately accessible to the masses, and it confuses the competition. Sorry lads, sorry. So, it's immediately you're almost putting in something a little bit more proprietary, which has got to be good for business. It's certainly good for keeping the DIYers at bay. So that's interesting. Obviously, RCBOs, they're all double pole anyway, as most RCBOs are, although you've got, instead of a cage clamp at the bottom, a single cage clamp, you've got a line and neutral cage clamp at the bottom. The MCB is interesting, because notice the MCB is a little skinny fella.
It is a little skinny fella, isn't it? It's, what's that, 9mm?
It's effectively, it's half the size of a standard MCB, and it's got a blank next to it. SBS tell me they're changing that design, and that's a new design is coming out shortly, so that will be interesting, won't it? I've got the MCB here just for the surge protector, double pole surge protector. Everything else is an RCBO for our final circuits. I must admit, and people will have a go at me in the comments, only one spare way, David? Come on, that's not really providing much future proofing, is it? Yeah, I did mean to order a bigger board to cater for more spare ways. I told the client I'd give them 3. It is a rental property. The needs here are going to be quite low.
How many circuits do they have? Is this?
This will represent the final circuit by the time we've finished prattling about. Batteries charged. A couple more things to say, I suppose. Interesting to see the UKCA marking. That's the first time I've seen that. Where is it? Just there. You probably can't see that at all on camera. I'll take a picture and show it. Because someone voted for Brexit. Great Britain isn't part of the area that can use the CE marking anymore, so we've had to come up with our own. Brilliant, because nothing says duplication of standards isn't a
About feet and inches, pounds.
Moron. So, yes, UKCA, well, we all know that, where do I put it? The CE mark is widely counterfeited.
Yeah, Chinese export.
Well, that's a bit of an urban myth according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, well, Wikipedia.
Apparently the European Union, who run the CE scheme, have no evidence that it's being stuck on as the term Chinese export, but of course it is being stuck on products in a fake way. Take this LED lamp, for example. This is an old dimmable LED lamp, one of the early dimmable LED lamps, which is why it looks so odd. That's got a CE marking on it, which I guarantee is counterfeit.
Yes.
Because there's no identifying information on here, there's no manufacturer make, there's no model number. The CE mark you have to be able to tie back to the manufacturer. It's going completely off topic, it's nothing to do with bloody consumer units now, is it? I just found it interesting, the CE mark you're supposed to be able to tie back to a manufacturer. This was bought from a UK seller of LED lamps, and they were breaking the law by selling them as unbranded lamps with a CE mark. They shouldn't have been doing that. Naughty, naughty. They were shit anyway, I stopped using them after a while. But yes, so look, new products now, you'll start seeing this UKCA mark on it, which applies to Great Britain. Doesn't apply to Northern Ireland because they've been allowed to carry on using the CE logo, I understand, and obviously that's to tie in with the Republic still being in the EU. But for the rest of us proles, you're going to see that UK CA mark start appearing on things. Surf protection, because we put surf protection in. Nigel, I'll tell you what, another thing. We really must do some work, surely. When we first started showing videos putting in CP fuse box boards,
yes, I quite like them.
I had some people commenting, you're out of order putting in those sort of boards, because if they disappear, if that brand disappears, then you're leaving people with stuff that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. Which is not really an argument, if you ask me, because besides the likes of Hager, maybe Crabtree Starbreaker, who else are you going to trust? Because you've got, for example, Eaton. Loads of Eaton Mameras went in around here when they built new houses around the millennium. Eaton since changed their design for the, was it Men's Shield 3? I can't even remember now. You want an RCBO for a Mamera 2000, you're paying triple digits.
Yeah.
Similarly, Wylex, the NSB range of devices which fitted with their balcony Busbar. The new Wylex devices now don't have that compatibility, so if you've got a Wylex board over 10 years old that's got the balcony Busbar in, you can't get the breakers for it anymore. Who else?
Well, just about everyone except for bloody Hager.
Wylex, there's a brand, a big Electrium brand, comes from the same stable as Crabtree and Wylex. Wylex used to make consumer units, they stopped. NK Sentry. They're still back, they're still in business only because they sort of got a management buyout, I think, and they're now being produced by CertPro. But Honeywell pulled the plug on the MK Sentry, didn't they? And it could just as easily have disappeared. So you can buy what you think is a safe brand, and they can still disappear or change their models on you and leave you stuffed. Hager are very good for not doing that, and that's why a lot of people like Hager. They're ubiquity. They're in all wholesalers. Everyone's got spare Hager stuff on the van because it's just so common. It's quite expensive, isn't it? Quite expensive.
Yeah, they do charge.
They do seem to put their prices up whenever an opportunity arises, like Amendment 3 boards, SPDs, Type A RCDs. The price just seems to go up every time, to the point where you look at some jobs where you price in a Hager board and you think, okay, now if I put in a CP fuse box or something, it would be so much less. And CP fuse box are now appearing in Edmondson's as well as CEF. They've got them on the shelves now. So yes, you might say that it's a bit of a risk putting in something like this because it's from a single source, you're reliant on that source having the stuff, and if they disappear, then you're left with something that's obsolete. But obsolescence hits the big boys as well as the little ones, it seems. So, I don't know, another thing that SBS will offer to do, if you tell them where you want your knockouts, they will put the knockout in for you and line it. And I tell you what, that's some proper grommet strip, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that's better than that serrated crap that we usually.
The serrated stuff that MK used to provide was all right. I thought it was the stuff Hager were providing that I thought was it was so thin, it just wouldn't stay on. It would pop off as soon as you got it half on, or as soon as you start pulling cables through it. That stuff ain't coming off, but they'll fit that for you. So if you know the layout of your board design, they'll put it all together for you, and you receive it. Less to do on site.
Screw it to the wall.
Less packaging to deal with.
Wires in, chucked up.
No tails. In fact, that neutral bar's not needed for anything in this configuration, is it? Would be.
Does that tail clamp come as standard?
You've got your tail clamp there. Your SPD wiring's in. I haven't gone. It's got knockouts all around the board as well, which I like. That's another thing I don't like about Hager, is that they don't put knockouts all around the board. And when you're doing a retrofit, those cables
Hager's still sticking square knockouts.
You can get them square all round, can't you? Square works with the trunk. There's plenty to like about Hager, but there's also stuff that puts us off, which is why we don't use it. But I quite like this. I think this is quite a neat design, quite a good design. I could see us using that as a go-to brand and pissing everyone else off in the area when they come to fix our work afterwards and go, what the hell is this? But yeah, it's all right, I think. Obviously, again, you also get some people commenting. I think when we started putting CP fuse box in, some people going, "Oh, are you sure that's all to proper standards and stuff?" Of course it is. Of course it is. There's a reason it's got 60898 written on the MCB and 61009 on the RCBOs. These are all made to a British standard. Even that half-size breaker is obviously type tested and conforms to that standard, unless they're lying to me, which I imagine they're not. I hope they're not. But when it comes to the brands, even the cheap makes, and obviously people always put the boot into things like CED at Toolstation, British General at Screwfix or LAP. Yeah, it's a lower cost, lower price point. Still made to that British standard. It's still made to do the job that it's supposed to do, and it's ought to do the same job as a Hager. The only trouble with the really cheap marks is that sometimes
the worst thing about some of the cheap ones is cable space. You get very little cable space on.
Are you talking about the enclosures themselves? Yeah, I'm talking more about the protected devices. You may find that when you're trying to talk and lock, they perhaps...
Oh, you get a bit toffee.
Yeah.
A bit like toffee, the screws.
Or if they've had one belt too many, perhaps they won't reset back on again or whatever. Pricing for this range doesn't seem too bad. But obviously we're going to put this in today and see what we think once it's spunked onto the wall. Yeah, there you go. Bit of an introduction there to a dual Busbar. Should we do some fucking work?
Yeah, it's talking.
Really boring conversation anyway. Okay, let's find out for sure if Western Power's frig of combining the earth with the neutral has solved the high external impedance. Of course it has. Still nice to see a number, and that number is 0.12, which is a lot better than 9 ohms or whatever it was before when we were last here. 0.12, 1.93. Not 0.12, 1.93 kiloamps. Let's make a note of that for the cert. But it looks like we're okay again there. So that's something. Lovely hot day, and I'm in some of the bloody broom cupboard again. While Nigel does the menial tasks, I'm going to obviously take all this apart now and get rid of it. I think the new board, I'll stick it higher up the wall. Get rid of this shonky trunking. That's somebody at the door. I'm going to say do something useful today, Nigel. Nigel and I are a bit annoyed because we're supposed to be in a trade on site, aren't we? Where are you gone? Oh, there you are. And some moody builders turned up, doing something with fitted wardrobes or something upstairs, but I don't know, some burly Russian sounding guy who's pissed right off that we've turned the power off and throwing his tools about up there. And I'm annoyed because, you know, we said to the client, we don't want anybody else here, power's going to be off, there's going to be trip hazards, there's going to be holes in the floor. But, well, I don't want to argue with him. I might send you to argue with him, Nigel.
Looks like a bullet dodger to me.
Boris the bullet dodger. But not say it too loud, he might take exception to that. Anyway, while Nigel faffs and prats and does whatever he's doing, this is all starting to take some shape. So I've had to put some new containment, I haven't finished putting it up yet, because the old stuff was pretty terrible and falling off. In this one I've got some metal banding to act as against premature collapse, of course. I'm going to take these circuits into the side of the consumer unit, and then the tails I'm going to bring in, and a little bit of containment I'm going to put up there, put it higher up the wall. You can see where the original rubber was on this house. Obviously got rewired probably in the 80s, looking at it all. So it's all very much underway. It's a lovely hot day, and I'd rather be anywhere but here. Never mind. Let's go see what the old Doofomatic 4000 is doing. What are you playing around with now, Martian?
This old thorn fluorescent.
That's rather magnificent, is it not?
Not magnificent, but yeah, it's kind of retro.
Old school, look at that magnetic ballast. Is there a date on there?
For a living room, it's no.
That's no. Well, let's plop up some pendants.
Yep.
I'll go back to fiddling around with whatever I'm fiddling around with. Oh, we are in. I actually took one of these out because I forgot we were decommissioning one circuit, so we do have 2 spare ways in there after all. There's still a lot more work to do here, but the consumer unit is basically on. Not switched on, but physically on the wall. It came with a tails gland, which is hiding down there. That's nice. They don't often come with tails glands, do they, Nigel? I've actually just brought it through a hole to keep it in the same containment down there, just because I think that's just a neater way of doing it in this instance, although normally I would use a tail gland. Speaking of neatness, I'm never very neat on my consumer units. I don't know how people find the time in the day to be honest. I've been on my fucking knees all day doing this, and it hurts.
And I appreciate
I've had enough.
being on your knees.
Had enough of it. I've got to say, we don't do many consumer units. We don't like consumer unit changes. I mean, we only do a handful a year.
We don't like work.
We don't. We've had enough.
If someone out there
wants to pay us to do nothing,
wants to send us a massive amount of money so we can retire, I'm up for it, and you'll get a big thanks from us.
Yeah, and that's all.
Dave will get on his knees again.
I might just and all. Okay, so yeah, it's we don't do many consumer unit changes. Part of the reason for that is because we don't try and do it all in one day. We do an EICR first. We make sure we're happy with what we're putting in. We come back on another day and do it so it's not rushed. And you know, it's 3 o'clock now. Started this at about 10 o'clock this morning. Just the mechanics of it and doing some rejigging, some testing. Yeah. Well, that's just me on the consumer unit. I've just been doing other shenanigans, which probably could have done it half the time had he really been thinking about it. But you know, it takes time, and a lot of places will say, "Oh, we'll just do it in a day," and they'll turn up with a BG board from Screwfix under their arm that's been factory populated, no testing. They'll stick it in. If nothing trips, brilliant, and they'll use whatever breakers are there, won't they?
Yeah, a couple of hours.
But anyway, it's time for the grand switch on here. So, and of course that builder upstairs has been adding a bit of extra pressure because it keeps on going down. One power back on, one power back on, and he's throwing his tools around up there, and you know, it's just not professional, is it?
It's not.
You've got to appreciate there are other trades booked in, and they'll probably off for as long as they offer. We should probably stop talking and get it back on before he comes down and beats us up. Let's start tidying up as well, because there's a right old mess down here. Coming off the trunking, we've got this conduit box. What on earth is that for, you might well ask? Well, if we go out here, that will eventually be providing a new feed to the garage. That's the other side of it there. Now I just put a whisker box on the back of it, so a circuit of its own. And they're going to be taking it to the driveway. We're going to be burying an armoured cable eventually to provide power to the garage. Current power to the garage is via this twin and earth catenary business. Yeah, someone put that in. Frankly, it's amazing that it was still working. Obviously it's not anymore because we've disconnected it, but that's a crime against humanity if ever there were one. Onto the labelling. I find this a very fun part, to be honest. I don't know why, but I've got the first one on there. Fairly competent labelling sheets. We have it in word form rather than pictorially. Personally, I would think pictorial is perhaps better because not everybody, of course, speaks the Queen's. Also, the SBS have a leaflet. We recommend that you take your surge protector and hang it off the one of the existing circuits rather than it being on its own breaker. Something they said to me on the phone, I must admit as well when I was speaking to them. I like to put it on its own breaker, to be fair, but they say that if it's hanging off another circuit, it's less likely to be accidentally clocked off. But, well, okay, fair enough point, I suppose. As I say, it's just a personal preference of mine that I hang it on its own circuit way, but that's something that they say is their recommendation. Labelling sheets, like I say, fairly competent. We have a 2-colour sticker here. The only thing to say about the stickers, I suppose, is that they could be perhaps a bit more adhesive. It looks like they're not necessarily stuck on for the long term, so to speak. But it's not too bad. that just trip off? Nigel, are you doing anything on upstairs sockets? Upstairs sockets just clocked off.
This fucker's just cut through a cable, this fucking builder, Charlie.
Say that again.
He's just cut through a cable up there. He says it's in the way of his fucking wardrobe.
The builder?
Yeah. It's a socket's in the way of his wardrobe and he just fucking cut through it. It's live.
What's it, the guy doing? He's doing a fucking built-in wardrobe. What's he doing? Pissing around with the electrics. He knows we're on site.
I don't know. He's angry. He's muttering.
He's angry. Oh, I'm Superfly TNT, motherfucker.
Yeah, he's a big fucker, man.
Well, no,
tasty,
it's no good. I can't. We're the guys on site here doing the electrics. I'm not going to let this fucking stand. But anyway,
he's big. He's angry, man.
Well, it's not like
it's fucking heard it.
It's not like it's going to come to fisticuffs, is it? No, we're going to be British about this, Nigel, and show this guy a thing or three. I'll give him quite the tongue lashing, and once I've got him reeling from that, a bit of wit and sarcasm, he'll be down on the canvas and out for the count before you know it. Yeah. And that ought to be the end of it.
Yeah. Well, so just be careful.
Well, yes. Okay. Well, let's. You take the camera. I'll tell you what. I'll take the old persuader here, just in case my words of encouragement fall on deaf ears.
Well, yes.
Although, maybe you should take the van keys as well, just in case we need to make a swift exit. In fact, you go just wait by the van, and I'll deal with this chap. I say, you there? Yes, you.
Well, fucking hell. There's been a lot of noise in there, a lot of shouting. Wonder if I should go in and see if everything's okay. So it's gone quiet now. It is.
You still got the van keys?
Yeah, I got them somewhere.
Good, because you're driving.
What? Hey? What's it?
Oh, fuck's sake. Fuck off. Oh.
Yeah, take a seat.
Yeah, very good, mate. You need to get me to a hospital. You're going to have to clear this out so I can get down on my front or something.
If you go on your hands and knees, and, I'll strap you to the side with a bungee.
Oh, yes. Got all the jokes in the world, haven't you? You're not the one with a crowbar up your fudge-flavoured soft whip dispenser. Jesus Christ. Oh.
Don't get it caught on your heel.
Fucking hell. I'm already worried that if I sneeze, the top end's going to give me a tonsillectomy or something.
You want me to give it a pull? If we can get it out.
Just clear this out, will you, so I can... I'll wait inside here.